death, or prison. Brought to you by leanonmeusa.org. The men you are about to hear have spent more than 50 years in prison. We bring you stories of hope and encouragement. Now, let's join Johnny Branham and the Lopez brothers, Raul and Laz.
Today we're talking about unintended consequences, kind of a carryover of that, and some of the things that you just don't think about. And I'll open it up and talk just briefly, a moment in time when I was incarcerated, and there was a Christmas. And every time I think about this, it bothers me because I had my daughter at the time. She was 9 years old, and she had come to visit me. Both my daughters had come to visit me at Christmas. And so, of course, they don't understand the concept of time. And so at 3:00, it's time for the visitors to go. But my 9-year-old daughter doesn't understand this. This is Christmas, and I want to spend the rest of the day with my daddy, and I got to go. And so as we're walking towards the gate, because I was at a work camp facility, a little bit lower of security at that time. And so as I'm walking towards the gate, she's getting closer. She's clutching me closer and closer. I can't see her face, but I can feel her hugging me closer and closer as we get to the gate. And I look down and she's got tears in her eyes. And she says, "Daddy, do I have to go?" And what do you say as a father at that moment? A 9-year-old daughter tells you, do I ask you that question? Do I have to go? And at that moment, I think about those unintended consequences. I didn't think about, okay, I'm robbing them. These robberies and this crime is going to lead to me being out of her life. It's going to lead to me being at this moment to where it's Christmas and she has to leave and I have to stay. I didn't think about that.
And when you mention things like that, I hear this a lot when people don't have the experience or have gone through what we've gone through. I hear it a lot of the time. Oh, he doesn't love his daughter, or he doesn't love his wife, or he doesn't. Why would you? If he loved his mom, he wouldn't do what he's doing. There's addiction involved. There's open wounds involved. And again, we're not justifying. We're not playing the victim here. If anything, we were doing the victimizing. We're at fault. We're guilty. We did the crime. These consequences that we're facing, we don't think. And that's why we're here. We're here because if you're listening, we're trying to see if we can activate something in your mind to say, hey, listen, for this stupid robbery of a 7-Eleven that I'm doing with my friends can take 50 years out of my life. It can hurt my daughter. It can hurt my wife. It can hurt my mom. It can hurt my son. And so that's what we're trying to do, is just to give you some knowledge of what reality is because of all the subliminal messages with the movies and the videos in our lives.
Exactly. I want to touch on this. It's sort of like a message that's not written anywhere. But a lot of us believe this way. Before I was a Christian, I believed that way, that once you accept the Lord and you're walking with God, that it's a rosy path and everything is perfect. And the bottom line is we continue to have problems. We continue to have struggles. The only thing is I don't go back to old behavior. Let me repeat that. We do not go back to old behavior. That's what changes. The reason I brought that up is because we had mentioned institutionalization. After doing 12 years, I get out. And for some reason, they always send me to the hard prisons up in the Panhandle in Florida. A lot of racism, a lot of riots, a lot of violence, as compared to other prisons that are down here, down south. But who knows why I believe God allowed that, because he was working my character.
We do know. We do know. Not who knows. We do know.
And as a side note, let me say this. God is not impressed with your calling, with your abilities, with your gifts. He's really impressed about your character. At 2 and 3 in the morning, when the pastor's not around, when your wife is not around, when nobody is around, how are you going to act and how are you going to respond to certain situation? That's what makes the difference. There are people who sing like angels, preach like Billy Graham, but will their character maintain them throughout the years? I thought that was an important point to throw in there. But I get out of prison, and I didn't understand that I was institutionalized. I denied it. I said, no, it's me. But I realized that I was very angry. And even though I knew the Lord, I knew God, and I was doing the right thing, but there's a lot of things that take time. I wish we had a magic wand and it would be one night. That's why the Bible talks about where we're renewed in our minds, and that's not an overnight thing. It takes time. So what happened was there was certain behavior, and when I say certain behavior, I'm not talking about I beat my daughter or mistreated her in any way or abused her. We just had certain arguments, and I did the best that I could at the time, but we got into an argument, and it's 10 years now that I have a daughter that doesn't speak to me. She's seen me go to Guatemala as a missionary pastor. I pastored 4.5 years in Guatemala as a missionary pastor. The work went beautifully over there, very successful over there. We had a TV program, radio program. We were feeding underprivileged kids. I mean, a lot of stuff, God will use you. But in the back of my heart, there's still that little pain that God is still resolving things. And there was a time when I would hear a man of God speak this way, and like my brother was saying about judging, I would think, well, what is he doing wrong? Maybe this or maybe that. The bottom line is there are wounds that need to heal in family members, unexpected consequences that we never even thought of, even to this day. So what are you doing about that, Raul? I'm praying. And I've tried contacting her and writing letters and the whole gambit. And she did the best that she could at the time. When I go into prison, she's 12 years old. When I get out, she's 24. And so she had changed. And that's something that I deal with. And I must be honest, I'm not depressed because I believe if God could change my life, he could do anything. So it's just a matter of time and waiting on the Lord. But I look forward to the day when me and my daughter will worship together. But right now I put it in God's hands.
And it's a good thing that you brought that up because of the institutionalization of your life and the way you thought, that's why the argument went the way it went, and it escalated to that point. Again, you didn't hit her or anything, but you escalated to a point that you responded as like if you were in prison. Am I right or wrong on that?
Oh no, most definitely.
And so that is what I'm trying, and what we're trying to say is that if you have a family member who is getting out or is getting close to his release date and has done more than 5 years, or I wouldn't even know what number to put, as for how many years you have to be in to be institutionalized. But if you do, what we suggest is that you can't rush into things. I think the error here was the first thing they did was move in together. I don't think that was a good idea. Not that I know it wasn't, obviously, because of the end result, and that's why we need transitional places. Like my other partner in this panel, Big Mo, he went through a transitional phase, but it's affecting us. Listen, he got out in 2009. Here we are in 2020, and we're still reaping the effects of these consequences. And it affects not just him, it affects her. It only affects her, it affects me because I'm in the middle of all this. You see what I'm saying? I still have a relationship with her, and it's tough. It's a tough situation. So this is the type of stuff that we need to understand that, listen, if you've done some time, listen, you are not exempt. I don't care if you can preach like Billy Graham or sing like, from Franklin. But the point is that we all need assistance. We all need help. We all need guidance. My wife, what she went through every time, the humanizing, the way they would treat the guests or the visitors. Yes. Sometimes the women would actually, pat down inappropriately. To check under the bra, and my wife would have to be exposed to this every weekend. She would come to visit. It's not only we that are incarcerated, and that's not mention the moms and the mothers that I've seen so many times, and you can attest to this. You hear them on the phone. What do you mean you didn't send me money, Mom? What are you talking about? How come you haven't done this? Have you experienced that?
Oh my goodness! And I really wanted to revert back to some old ways and reach and choke somebody for talking to their mom that way.
Yes.
Wanted to just beat them down. Listen, boy, do you know this woman brought you into this world, and the fact that she's still in your life is a blessing. The fact that if he's still in your life is a blessing. But there's something that Elmo brought up, a conversation we were having. He asked the question, does the way that you went through the system and the courtroom and things of that nature, did that affect the way that you look at mercy, the way that you look at forgiveness, the way that you look at patience in my own life? Because when we're talking about family members, we're talking about those who, we expect. And that's a beautiful thing that you said. You said something very crucial. That is exhibiting the love of God. Because one of the things that God does is he just reaches his hand out. Now, whether we reach out back for it for today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 10 years, he's still like the prodigal father, waiting with his arms open, saying, any day you decide to come, I'm right here.
I'm here.
That's patience and that's mercy. And so I've been away from my daughters for, like I said, 14 and a half years. So I wasn't expecting them to really embrace me like that, even though we writing and visits and things like that. And I had to sit down and have a heart-to-heart with my oldest, because she basically laid it out. She said, there was a time I resented you. She said, there was a time when I was angry with you because you made this decision to be out of my life and not take me into consideration when you did it. And that hurt.
Yeah.
For her to say that to me and not to think about, I wasn't, and that's the thing. If you're listening today, if you're watching today, and you're doing something, if you're in the middle of doing something, you got to think about the ripple effect. How is this going to affect not only me, my children, my parents, my loved ones, the people who I care about. And it's not that, like you said, you go into it thinking, I'm going to intentionally do this so that I can be out of your life for 14 and a half years and not be there for you. And I want to put you on a strain, so you have to send me money to take care. We're not thinking about it like that, because that will obviously be a whole nother realm of thinking. But at the end of the day, we're not really thinking about it. I didn't really think about it,
Exactly. And one of the biggest lies is we're not going to get caught. My brother and I work with about 6, 7 other people, and we would plan things. We're not talking about doing a crazy cowboy robbery where you go in. We actually would plan, sometimes for weeks. We'd see who'd come in, who'd leave.
And
we would take our time, and we were deceiving ourselves. We're not going to get caught. So no one really does a robbery or does crime thinking, well, I might hurt my family. I'm not going to get caught. We're doing things the right way.
Exactly.
And it's a lie. It's a lie. It's a self-deception. By statistics, you're going to find very few people who actually got away with it. And sometimes, I'm going to ask you guys a question. I met people in prison that said, what I'm here for, I didn't do, but I did all these other things.
Yeah.
There comes a time where you have to pay the piper.
And you're comparing. You're saying what we went through, the court system. The incarceration. Are we more merciful now? There's one thing that's very common. It's out in the media a lot. Is for example on Netflix. There's a bunch of documentaries on prison and people incarcerated innocently and things like that. And we definitely, my heart goes out to the incarcerated, and we're going to have a segment on that on victims. We hardly hear about the victims, and this is the type of stuff that me and my brother experienced firsthand. After we're saved, we were in the county jail. He did 5, I did 4. in the county jail before we went to trial. And when we went to trial, the prosecutor was, giving his whatever the deliberation, and when he took one of the victims and just played out the robbery, put her on the floor, face down, arms behind her back. This lady was affected at that moment, still traumatized. And this is 5 years after the robbery. And we saw this woman crying. I felt so ashamed. He felt, what was that emotion that you had?
Well, I remember because she said something key that it was a key thing she said that I won't ever forget. I could still hear. She says, I was convinced they were going to kill us. And I'm thinking to myself, why would she think I never threatened her? Whatever. Yeah, we took guns out, of course. But she said something, they didn't have masks on that day. If you remember that robbery, we came in, we went in with suits. We were playing the part of salesmen so they could buzz us into this place. She says, because they allowed us to see their faces, that means they're going to kill us. So here's a woman who thought this was her last day on earth. I never knew this. So when this comes out in the trial, now let me set it up for you guys. We have two separate juries, one jury for me, one for my brother. They're both sitting adjacent to each other. The courtroom was full, and they got the guns on the tables, remember? And she says, I thought and she started to shake. And I remember tears welled up in my eyes because God showed me great mercy and compassion, we are able to experience that for others. And that's why I say everything starts here, right here. You can't get respect until you respect yourself. You can't really have compassion and forgiveness unless you've really, truly been forgiven. And I received that. So now I felt this emotion. I felt this compassion. But I remember thinking to myself, blink your eyes, don't let a tear fall because the jury's going to think that you're trying to manipulate them so you can get a better verdict. But I remember thinking I wanted to hug her and say, I'm so sorry, ma'am. I never thought, I wasn't raised this way, but under the effects of drugs, of just the lust of money.
Yes.
You go beyond and you do things that you thought you'd never do. And if God ever gave me the opportunity to see this woman, then maybe I could tell her. But these are just things that you never thought you would affect people this way.
And so that's why it's important for you all to keep listening, because we are going to bring some actual people who are on the other end of crime.
Yes.
We never really hear about those stories and how it affects them, how it affected them, how it affects them to this day. There's some things that I don't think about. How many people have I affected? How many times maybe they're still working in stores. Every time somebody comes in, they have PTSD because of me.
Paranoid,
and things of that nature. And so those are things that we don't think about. And so alphausa.org, this is nationwide. There's a director in every state that can be contacted off of the website to provide guidance and mentoring and a welcoming church near you. You don't have to go through this alone.
And this is just an admonition of the Lord. It's like a warning. If you're listening and you like he said, if you're into something or about to do something, maybe that guy, he's fronting you that brick and say, you can pay me in portions of it. The brick.
Yes.
What is a brick?
A brick is, I wasn't a
kilo of cocaine.
A kilo of cocaine. If someone is fronting you this and then saying, look, you can pay me in portions so you can come up, that's just deceitfulness of the adversary. Think about the time if you get caught, obviously, and not if you can, because it will eventually happen. The end result of that, it's just destruction. Think of your family, think of your loved ones, think of your children. Believe it or not, we've made money, quick cash, quick money, but at the same time, easy come, easy go.
Yep.
I remember we did a robbery, and I bought a car cash, and because it was cash, I didn't put no insurance on it, and 2 weeks later, I crashed it, totaled it, drunk driving. You know what I'm saying? And it's just it's a bag, right, with holes in it. So,
Yes.
you appreciate when you work hard, you earn your money. We've done so much more. I mean, you think about it. That big roll you got in your pocket, you ain't left the hood. You've never been on a cruise. You've never been to New York. You've never been to Tennessee. You've never been to Puerto Rico. You've never been to Jamaica. You've never been to all these places. I've been able to travel. I've been able to see things without those curricular activities, with that extra money, where I never went anywhere. But now that we work hard for it, we know how to, be better stewards of it.
Absolutely.
So again, we invite you to just contact us, connect with us. Once again, I want to appreciate my brother being present here today with us.
Definitely.
And so, anything else you wanted to add?
Before getting into the county jail, not being able to sleep at night. Because I had people that were popped before I was, and I'm waiting on them the shoe to drop. Surely these guys, one of them will tell on me. Somebody's going to tell on me, and every time I'm in the car and the blue lights go by, they're coming to get me. That's not a good feeling.
No.
Just be waiting for someone to either kick your door in, or either you walking down the street, minding your own business, and people swarm up on you. That's not a settling feeling. And to know it's almost like it's imminent. It's like an omen. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. So you don't have to go through that. You're listening today. You have a family member, a loved one, a friend that you're wanting to help. We're here to help, definitely. Thank you all for listening. It's a joy every time we get together and are able to share. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week.
Until the next time.
Have a blessed day.
God bless.
Looking for a welcoming church? Connect at leanonmeusa.org. Join us next time on Death or Prison, when Elmo Golden tells of shooting a man at the age of 16 and the consequences that have affected both families for over 30 years. Death or Prison is a production of leanonmeusa.org. Copyright 2020. Death or Prison is offered for information only and is not intended as legal advice. Thank you for listening.
I can change the world. Feed one, teach one boy and girl. Maybe we can change the world. They say I'm preaching, let me speak then, 'cause you're never too old to reach them. You're never too old.